Greetings and welcome to the Midnight Current. We'll get to the meaning of life and all the rest of the good stuff in just a little bit. First, the opening remarks. So, today's pilot is called an Anthology for Oblivion for the simple reason that it's entirely possible that no one will ever watch all of this from the beginning to the end. Right? So, the last couple of months I've put all my attention into short form, sub 3 minute tight packages, and while there is a certain delight in doing all of that, you really have to concentrate the essence into well-rounded arcs of delivery in short form, much like constrained writing. It doesn't quite give you the space to ramble and go on enjoyable little tangents. Okay, so in here today we are uncut as it happens. What shall we discuss? Well, let's just get the meaning of life out of the way. The meaning of life as a whole, categorically, there is no real specific meaning. It simply evolves into ever and ever more refined and reconciled combinations by the looks of it. But on the individual level, there are subjective meanings. These meanings are the measure of our shells. We are carriers of a spectrum of potentials in our lives. The consummation, reconciliation of all of these potentials, the becoming of all that could be, that is the meaning of your life. And also the release from all of that is the meaning of your life. It's the meaning of your death, technically, but it does go under the heading of the meaning of life. Then, as to the question, who the hell are you, as in me? My staple answer is, I am that I am not. Right? So, whatever that I may become at any given time, that's what I am. But that doesn't really answer the technical question on my background, so here goes the short version. Started when I was 15, moved into an ashram, a long journey in quest for higher education. They told me go to whatever university. I really could not be bothered dealing with the inane, constricted and constrained, stuck-up models of education, churning particular paradigms that do not open your perspectives beyond the purpose you are being groomed for. So, no thanks, I'll go for ancient wisdom instead. Long journey, and up until 2008-ish, a fair 13 years in Hindu-Buddhist dabblings, until it came to the end of a certain road. It was no longer tenable, stuffing myself into templates, orienting to life based on doctrines described by even the wisest of others. So into an individual journey that has continued ever since, in actually just broadening the perspectives into their fullest scope, exploring the fabric of what is, as in snapping out of ideas, clearing the lenses, the whatever that is, that's what it is, that's what we need to know in order to be grounded in actuality. So that's therefore the brief introduction. Then, as to the people asking, are you some sort of unawakened whatever? Well, I'm awake here talking to you, so that's a type of wakefulness. Another awakening is simply the snapping out of your dreamy holograms and getting into what is, and only accepting that for your baseline reference, not going by all sorts of holographic hallucinations. If that is an awakening, then, there is wakefulness there. I don't ramble on trips. I speak of what is. Alright? Another more significant awakening, in practical terms, in what you receive here in these, should I call them, transmissions. Okay, that's a niche term for appealing to esoteric audiences. So there is the simple awakening to the blindness of the world. How most everyone is myopic in their tunnels. They can't see left, right, up, down and center. They are so driven with a particular agenda, really. They are driven by a particular agenda, pulling them by the noose, holding the carrot in front of their face. There they go, blind to all the rest of it. With all of these yappings, yarns, I initially started with more lofty topics, the sorts of stuff that one would expect make sense to people looking into the yonder space of awareness. But, alas, all of it went so high sky that, it was pointless when there are not the first and second foundations, when even things such as do not react lest you become blind to the raw nature of what is, do not go too far this way or that way, do not hop into excess, do not fall into deficit. In your orientations, try to go for a balanced perspective in the middle. How is that confusing? How is that something that should not be self-evident? Or the stuff like the elements, that there should be earth, water, fire and air, that are actually not physical substances, but we simply have solidity, stability, and then we have fluidity, adaptation, then we have reactivity, transformative power, and we have relationality, the spread like the wind in the skies. In our awareness, as in all things, I mean, these are not in dispute, these are all out there, but I have to walk through and explain all of this from the most basic bits before we get to building up into perhaps more sophisticated insights into the dimensions of awareness, the alchemy between elements, the stations of your being and becoming, what have you, the more exciting stuff. It's difficult to put anything super exciting on the table when the foundations are lacking. I mean, much of this is exciting in its own way, in its banal, basic flavor, but, there's more, but it cannot be presented because there's no basis. Alright, so with that, I've been churning out dozens of thematic series. We have walkie-talkie spinning from Be Here Now, a random inspiration stemming from a friend's question turned into a series. We have Ponderstruck, the more perhaps profound, patient contemplations on the nature of life and really of our ponderings as a whole. We have at the extreme end of the simple spectrum the Trumpified Make Awareness Great Again, very easy series. I need to get back to that. There's a whole set of those coming up. We have Spirit Warden, also just budding, stem from really as a DAGA, Defense Against the Dark Arts sort of thing, with every sort of swindler and hocus pocus spiritualist basically garnering followers and exploiting them on the internet. There's plenty there to be explored. And what else have we? There's a ton coming up. I've just opened up the first actually properly structured and hopefully very clear series into the path that explores the lay of the land of our conscious journey into the fullness, fulfillment of all that we are, our potentials, into that meaning of life that I mentioned, and also into liberation, the unconditioned decoupling from our obsessive attachments and assertions, rising beyond into planes of metacognition. I like the term planes of metacognition, right? There was the earlier Living Awareness series where I got into matters of self-inquiry, spinning from Ramana Maharshi as well, not exclusively, with some extensions to actually turn it into a more well-rounded method that integrates insight into the full spectrum of your living experience instead of just dissociating you from the full spectrum of it. That, I suppose, will also continue in its turn. At some point, we need to look at methods that are easily accessible, micro meditations. I like to call them macro meditations, even for half an hour, are often unbearable for modern attention deficit audiences. So the sort of stuff that can be done in between the cracks. It's obviously not the gold standard. Back in the day, 8 hours, 12 hours, that was the more respectable quota of doing your head in, but that's not at all realistic in our current landscape. So there's plenty in the works. You may have seen the video that I just dropped in writing a book. So I actually am writing a book. Again, there is an earlier book project in a similar general genre, Moorland Tales. A whole world-building adventure there, pending, where the people I ideated with, who are a part of the journey, are pending all things in their season, something that I need to do in shorter form, in my own terms, really spilling out and spinning up people from the circles I've evolved in recent times, cast into fantastic new worlds. It's a fun project by the looks of it, still brewing, got the first couple of chapters done. Stay tuned if that sounds interesting. Beyond that, people are asking, is there a community here? No, there isn't. Right, that's it. That's the measure of it. There is no community here. And communities tend to turn into cults. We need decentralized interaction, right? Suppose that's some sort of a community, but in terms of these idealistic communities crafted around a particular doctrine, a particular individual, those are all doomed, destined to decay. So trying to spin up communities is pretty much pointless. Might be a point for a little while, but in terms they all degrade. They get taken over by associated interests. They become trees to climb up. They become hierarchies that people begin to squat when they have nothing better to do in their lives, when they are bored of actuality as it is, when they do not like the bitterness of reality. They hijack the structures around insight for their selfish purposes, right? So please, no such communities. We are all friends hanging out all together. If we share perspectives, they are not doctrines, they are simply our insights into what is our direct living experience, not programming from me or the other whoever, right? That does not lead to anything good at the end of the day. I do plan to open up at some point, come the next year, a new platform that facilitates more structured, coherent exchanges, initially just to facilitate the few among you who are asking questions and who would like to follow up a bit further, both for consultations and for more structured study pathways, courses, curriculums, what have you. We're already doing a couple of those in a less formal or less structured setting with some friends, digging into ancient Indian sources, digging into biblical symbols and narratives as a point of reference, churning out perspectives, extracting essence, and some of those you see in Ancient Orient or Bible drops, and with plenty of spillover into other series from the themes being excavated. So those sorts of things are there and coming up at some point. Perhaps a platform open for a wider public as well. It's a challenging environment, has been for a long time now, when everything is herded into the mainstream platforms that do not actually support any sort of coherent collaborative dynamics that simply trigger and goad your attention in a particular direction. There is no build-up, there is no knowledge collaboration happening there, there is no syndication of insight. It doesn't lead to anywhere at all. It's kind of frustrating that that's the best we are given by the powers that be, but then again, they have their agendas, their interests that are not the interests of your or mine, not of our cognitive evolution. Quite the opposite, really. But, the full works of producing a new platform, I mean, I got the skills, the background, but to do that only to realize that no one actually gives a shit, it's a bit of a drag. I have plenty of things I can pour my time and attention into, and I suppose a broader platform facilitation will be there when the actual demand begins to emerge at more scale, right? We need some momentum. So that's a mouthful already. We are at 18.20 minutes here, but I don't think that's the measure of the midnight current. Let us take a moment in contemplative silence. Are you bored yet? Why are you bored so easily? Why are you so quickly driven to the next tunnel in your awareness? Just be present, abide in what is. If the bearded fellow there should be silent for 10 or even 15 seconds, then just also be silent. Do not expect for the next thing to start right then and right there, and preferably sooner. Why are you so fidgety, uneasy, anxious? What are you trying to do, right? Just gobble up the next dose of dopamine, or looking for stimulation. We are overstimulated. We need to learn to be quiet, to be silent, present in the dullness of what is. Let's do it again. 10 seconds. Not even a proper long inhale and exhale there, but attention spans being what they are, we have to breathe quickly to keep engagement intact. So, stare at the wall, watch the paint dry. It's good for you, no harm done. What are all the million things that you actually need to accomplish in your day? Not so many. Typically you can easily pause for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Do not need to chase that next thought, wrestle with the next emotion, or be changing your position over and over again when you default to the physical baselines and stimuli. All of that, just let it be. Also, don't need to chase for lofty meanings in what you're doing. Will I become wiser or enlightened by doing all of that? Just shut up and be there, and you will find that it does a world of good for you, for your brains. You give them a moment of rest, okay? And when they are in that peaceful moment of rest, perhaps something good comes out of it. You'll never know if you never try. Okay? Should we take another 10 seconds, see what comes? Just holding my breath, it tends to pause naturally. The curse of past yogic practice. I sometimes stop breathing without thinking much of it, and then I remember to breathe again. Pausing the breath after inhales and after exhales is also a fine practice. You find that it, in one way, ups your energy, in the other way, downs your energy, right? Uppers and downers through breath. Good practice. Do your experiments. But what I wanted to say is, in closing our eyes, we enter, if only we can, shut off all those drifty tangents. Really what we need to shut off is not those tangents. It is our inclination, the habitual conditioning of our attention to pursue everything. The drift is going to be there, but your pursuit of the drift need not be there. When that drift settles, then you enter into a more contemplative and eventually into a more dreamlike space. Your subconscious begins to rise to the surface when your surface daytime consciousness, your sensory inputs, etc. have subsided. There, people often seek for visions, but if you don't seek, you will actually discover something real. If you seek those alternative dimensions, whatever, signs, revelations, indications, more often than not, you are simply dealing with your own projections. Nothing new in there. The real revelations, visions, insights arise from the brain, your awareness, integrating itself on the background, and from those integrations, from those constellations, something new comes into being, takes on a particular form. Those visions, they are not real as such, they are not actual physical insights into an alternative dimension. They are simply more abstract stuff that is dressed by your brain for your comprehension in the sensory frame of reference. Some people are more auditory, they take it more in way of sounds. Do not in there go all the way to schizophrenia. Don't, mindful with those sounds, understand where they come from. There is no other in there. They are simply expressions of your inner stuff bubbling to the surface. Same with visions. And again, please don't go full-on hallucinatory, psychotic in your journeys. Remember, all of it is just the stuff of your subconscious and unconscious mind, finding expressions in ways that are comprehensible for you. Now, that's again the sort of stuff that would be fun to explore in more detail, but alas, it's entirely pointless to go into more methodical, multimodal meditation, navigating vision spacious, whatever, or elemental alchemy, discovering your structural blueprints, crossing them with your adaptive streams, lifting that to the ground or to your third eye, whatever, right? If you can hardly find your nose, then where is your third eye? So much of that is simply symbolic hype. People like to flaunt all these esoteric concepts, and it's all happening in their minds. Some of it happens in their hallucinated projections, but very few actually land into the raw living substance of energy in your being, in your physical body, in your mental body. So, those are postgraduate ramblings for another time. Okay, do we have more to say tonight? Do we have not? Not sure. I think we're getting to the end of the line here. All of this, an unstructured anthology dedicated to the Oblivion. Okay? What is the Oblivion? Right? Don't be afraid of the Oblivion. The Oblivion is the best friend of all your problems. Do come out of that Oblivion, of the other side, having entered. You only go there to die to your finity, and then you are born unlimited. Interesting, but not something I intend to be elaborating upon right here. Are we at 27 and 30 minutes here? That is when the bell tolls and it's time to wake up. Would you please, pretty please, wake up to what is. Snap out of your illusions. Give up your projections. Improve your quality of life for yourself and for everyone about you. Stick to reality. Trip your trips in the dreamland when it's time to dream, but don't confuse your pipe dreams and your hallucinations with what is. Unveil, uncode, discerning what is and what are your distortions. That really is the major topic that I keep on driving here, and I don't know that many or any of you actually really want to cross that bridge. It's a bitter bridge when you have to face, acknowledge, admit to yourself all the hallucinations and distortions that you are enabling, facilitating, clinging to, that basically sabotage your life, compromise the fullness of your potentials. We do not want to admit to that. We want to be excellent in our little boxes. Alright. Let's take another 10 seconds. Breathing is good for you. Peaceful breathing helps your brain calm down. Okay? Remember to breathe properly, mindfully, consciously, and see what comes. On that note, good night from the Midnight Current. It's a wrap.